It was one of those rare spring mornings in Pinebrook Heights that made you believe the world was still a gentle place. The air was crisp but inviting, filled with the scent of lilacs and freshly cut grass. Birds chirped lazily from the branches of maple trees that lined the curving streets, their leaves casting speckled shadows across the pavement like flecks of gold. Madeline stood barefoot on the porch steps of her modest two-story rental, a steaming mug of lukewarm coffee cradled in both hands. Her eyes followed the soft movements of her daughter, 8-year-old Eliza, who was crouched on the sidewalk near the curb with a box of neon chalk. Her knees were smudged in green and lavender, tiny hands stained with powdery hues as she concentrated on sketching a rainbow that arched into a grinning sun. Beneath it, stick figures with hearts for eyes and curly hair held hands under the bubbly letters, "Be kind." Madeline smiled to herself. Eliza had weathered more than her fair share of hardship these past 2 years, especially after the divorce. Moments like these, where laughter spilled freely and creativity flowed unbothered, felt like small wins, silent victories stitched into the fabric of recovery. From inside the house, she heard the low hum of an electric kettle and the muffled rumble of Anatoly's voice drifting through the screen door. He was reading the news out loud in his thick, measured Russian accent, probably cursing under his breath at some absurd headline. Madeline glanced over her shoulder and grinned softly. Anatoly had only been in her life for 8 months, but his presence was grounding. He was quiet, intense, calm, the kind of man who didn't say much but never missed a detail. A living wall of patience and certainty. Then came the sound. Tires crunching gravel. Madeline turned. A large, matte black SUV rolled slowly up the street like a panther on a prowl. No front plate. Rear windows tinted pitch black. It didn't drive past. It stopped, right in front of her house. The driver's side door creaked open. A man stepped out wearing a tactical vest, khaki cargo pants, black boots, and a tight black t-shirt with HOA enforcement printed in faded white letters across the chest. He wore mirrored aviator sunglasses and carried himself with an entitled swagger, the kind of gait that demanded compliance without conversation. A second man followed from the passenger side, thinner, more angular, with a clipboard under one arm and what looked like a can of pepper spray strapped to his hip. No badges. No real ID. Madeline's stomach clenched. They didn't even look at her. Their eyes locked onto Eliza. The thin one pointed. "You can't do that here," he barked, stepping toward the child. Eliza looked up, blinking against the sun. "What?" "You're in violation of HOA Code 4.2. Defacing shared community walkways," he snapped. Eliza's chalk paused mid-rainbow. "But it's just chalk. It'll wash off when it rains." Madeline placed her mug on the porch railing and moved quickly down the steps, placing herself between her daughter and the two strangers. "Excuse me," she said, voice steady but stern. "Who are you?" The clipboard guy barely looked at her. "HOA enforcement," he said flatly. "This is a documented infraction. And by the look of this mess, you've already received warnings." Madeline's heart pounded. There had been no warning, and she'd never seen either of these men before. "That's not a shared walkway," she said, pointing to the patch of concrete Eliza had been drawing on. "That's part of our driveway." The man gave a smirk. "Shared access easement. Section C of the neighborhood bylaws. You're in breach." "She's 8, Madeline said, her voice sharpening. "She's drawing a rainbow. You need to back off." That's when the other man, the one in aviators, crouched slightly, towering over Eliza's tiny frame. His voice dropped low and cruel. "Shut your mouth, girl," he growled. "HOA doesn't care what you think." Everything stopped. Eliza's face crumpled. Her mouth quivered. The chalk slipped from her hand and rolled toward the gutter. Madeline felt a hot pulse of rage explode behind her eyes. Her body moved before her mind caught up. "Hey," she barked. "Step away from her. Now." A thick, stifling silence fell. The man straightened and smirked. The other one chuckled darkly. "You really want to escalate this?" he asked. "We're authorized." Authorized for what? She had no idea. But before fear could fully take root, she heard the unmistakable creak of the screen door. Out stepped Anatoly. Barefoot. Calm. 6'4" of lean muscle wrapped in faded jeans and a white undershirt. His dark hair was slicked back, still damp from the shower. But it wasn't his build that shifted the atmosphere, it was his expression. Cold. Calculating. Like a man measuring whether something deserved to walk away or be broken. The two strangers turned. Aviator guy smirked. "Oh look, Ivan Drago's here." Anatoly tilted his head, voice even. "Ivan broke 3 ribs last week," he said. "I am worse." Clipboard guy raised a hand. Sir, step back. This is HOA business. Anatoly didn't flinch. Do you know her name? What? The girl. You shouted at her. Do you know her name? This doesn't. Before he could finish, Anatoly moved. Not fast. Not flashy. Just precise. He reached out, grabbed the man by the collarbone with one hand, and lifted. The man's feet left the ground for a moment before Anatoly pivoted and dragged him down the driveway like a sack of trash. No resistance. No struggle. Just stunned silence. Eliza clutched Madeline's leg, eyes wide. The man with the aviators lunged. Put him down. That's assault. He reached for something on his belt, pepper spray, maybe. Anatoly turned. With one smooth movement, he dropped the first man into the grass, spun, caught the second by the wrist mid-draw, and twisted. A sickening pop filled the air, followed by a grunt of pain. Oh, what the... Anatoly wrapped his other hand around the man's neck and dragged him backward across the lawn, past the tulips, over the curb, and into the asphalt like a wolf hauling prey. Less than 10 seconds. By the time both men were groaning on the ground, Madeline was frozen on the porch, no longer from fear, but awe. Justice had a sound. It was the sound of shock swallowing arrogance. Neighbors began to appear, faces peeking through blinds. Someone across the street lifted a phone. You're dead. Aviator man hissed. You can't touch us. We're protected. We're enforcement. Anatoly crouched, elbows resting casually on his knees. You are nothing, he said. They stared up at him. You yell at child. You lie about power. You wear no badge. He pointed at the bubbling ID on the man's chest. Fake, he muttered. He pulled out his phone. Say your names. Both of you. The thin man gasped. We were just helping the neighborhood. Name, Anatoly repeated. Chuck Grady, he wheezed. Anatoly turned to the other. You. Ryan. Ryan Bletch. This is over, Anatoly said, standing. You just don't know it yet. Sirens wailed in the distance. Do you want me to stay? He asked Madeline softly. She nodded. Right here. When the police arrived minutes later, everything was recorded, on phones, on Anatoly's camera, and through a video Madeline had just uploaded titled, Russian Boyfriend Drags Down Fake HOA Cops After They Threaten My Kid. The video went viral in under an hour. By noon it had passed 100,000 views. By evening it was trending globally. And that was just the beginning.